So what is up, guys? Welcome back to the More Nick Ackerman channel, and in this episode we're going to take a look at the OnePlus 12 after 1 year. Now I want to begin by talking about the price point. This phone retailed for around $899, but a lot of times there was discounts for this product throughout the year, and it was able to come down in price with a lot of trade-ins and incentives. So a lot of people didn't pay the full $899, but it definitely is more than some of the older OnePlus flagship phones. It costs a little more, and this year's OnePlus 13 went up $100 again. However, talking about the key specs that really matter here, we did have a 6.82-inch OLED display. It is pretty sharp too at 1440p resolution, and as I scroll down over here to About Device, you will see this came with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 platform. It also had a 5400 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty huge. Even today's standards, they went to a 6000, but this is still a huge battery. And we had 16 gigs of RAM, which is something we might not see on every variant of the upcoming S24 Ultra or S25 Ultra even. We also do have a 64 megapixel telephoto, which was downgraded on the 13 to a 50 megapixel. Although the newer phone does have a better, the middle camera was a 50, they're all 50 on the new phone. So this one definitely had a nicer telephoto. And we also did have the Adreno. It was the Adreno 750, I believe, GPU on here. So they went up to like the 800 series, but it had really good performance across the board because of these really strong specs that you'll find on here. Now, it also got upgraded to the Oxygen OS 15, and ever since that upgrade, which I got about a month ago, this phone has really went to the next level. It's super smooth with the animations now. Not that it wasn't before, but they cleaned it up, and now it really feels like I just got another new phone with this upgrade. It really does. Also, this is one of the last phones that's going to have a more curved display. That was a premium phone with an 8 Gen 3 in terms of like the mainstream options and offerings. So if you do really like curved panels, which is a acquired taste, some people really like flat displays. This is one of your last options out there. And some people argue it even looks more premium than the newer option that just came out. So a year later, I gotta say, all those key specs, the price for value, this thing was a home run hit last year. And I kind of don't feel as excited about the 13 as I did about the 12. So I think, while it's a great phone, I do think the upcoming series of phones, the OnePlus of next year, the 14, is gonna be another home run hit as well. So definitely the key specs are a major win for this phone right here. Durability wise, this also had a really strong build as well, so I didn't have any real durability issues. And even though that camera does stick off the body quite a bit, it definitely still feels like a premium phone. Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front. We also have Gorilla Glass on the back, and it's sandwiched around an aluminum frame. What's cool about this phone is it also had an IR blaster, and I really like this darker colorway. You also see right here, we do have volume rocker, power button switch, and at the bottom, fast charging. And we also do have ourselves a nice SIM card tray, and we do have ourselves good audio that came out of here. So durability, design, I do think this is a really nice design still. It's probably going to look great this year and next year. So the phones nowadays, because they got so mature, they're starting to look really nice even as they age. So that's a really good thing for you, so you can keep your phone a bit longer. Next thing I want to move on to is the display, because the display on here has been fantastic as well, mostly because it has these anti-flicker modes as well as really sharp resolution and really high brightness. The peak brightness outdoors can hit 4500 nits peak, so it's exactly the same as the newer phone in terms of how bright it can get. And you can just read things nicely. You'll see really good color reproduction on here. And if I go over here to settings, let me go over to settings, and then we scroll down into the display settings right here. If we scroll down a little bit, you'll see they have different screen color modes, which allow you to get even more in depth with your customization of how you want the display to look. Also, the punch hole, while not as small as I've seen on the Samsung devices, it's still a pretty small punch hole, so it doesn't get in the way too much. One of the issues though is if you wanted a proper IP68 or 69, you'll have to swing for the OnePlus 13, as this one did feature IP65. It still didn't give me no issues. I mean, are you taking your phone and purposely dunking it or dropping it in water? No, probably not. You probably have a case on it, you probably protect the phone, and you probably don't do things like that. So that area of the phone is not the best, but it's still okay. It also does have eSIM support, and this global model does support most of the US bands, so it worked out just fine for me here in the US. Another thing about the display though that I really liked is that it had 510 pixels per inch. So as I get really close to the text, it's sharper than some iPhones out there and sharper than some other phones that have a little bit less density. So it has really high density for what it is. It's also a pretty good aspect ratio, so it doesn't have a issue with like the phone being too narrow or anything like that. That's not a major issue right here either. So on the whole, the whole phone really does seem to be the total package here. Another thing I really liked about this phone was just the sheer performance of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and the 16 gigs of RAM. Everything I do on this phone just seems to fly along and it stays consistent. This is one of those phones that when you use it a year or two later, it's still fast like day one. You use it 3 years later, it's still fast like day one. Apps just pop open, they operate well. And at the end of the day, it really just does a good job. Even when you're playing things like COD, you're playing things like PUBG Mobile, it handles these things like they're nothing. And it doesn't get hot while doing it either, which makes this a preferred gaming recommendation for those of you who want a mainstream flagship. The OnePlus definitely does really good in this department, and I do enjoy it for that. So I think at the end of the day, if you're looking for a phone that not only performs well for daily tasks, but you like to do some mobile gaming here and there, although it might not be your primary usage, if you do it here and there, or you're doing it a little bit more extensively than the average person, this is going to be one of your best options. Even now that this phone's a year old, it still does all of those things just fine. The newer phone is barely even noticeably different in this department. So that's a really good thing for you. I will say though, if you're one of those people who want like Samsung DeX or something like where you plug this in, this is not going to have a feature like that where it makes it a whole computer from your phone. So that's something that this doesn't do. However, the OnePlus 12 plus a OnePlus Pad 2 plus like buds and a watch, all combined usually with some of the deals they throw, it's going to cost you sometimes the price of one iPhone. So you can get like a whole ecosystem of OnePlus products for about the same price as like one iPhone. So it's really a decent deal here, what you're getting for the money. If there's a con, I would say it's probably going to come in the way of the camera not being the best of the best out there, but still being fantastic. So I'm not trying to cancel out what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the actual quality I still think is beaten by the best of the best. However, this phone had, I think, an even better camera than in certain areas than the brand new phone. Although the new one goes 8K 30, you can only use 8K 24 here. You still had a really good telephoto option. And I actually did some tests where I put the telephoto up against the 13, and I actually found some of the results on this 64 megapixel to be sharper. That's not a good photo right there because we're like aiming down. Let's go ahead and aim up here where we have more light. So here's the box for the OnePlus Buds 3 Pro. And you'll see just tack sharp. So that telephoto on here is a beast on the OnePlus 12. So I think if you're looking for a strong telephoto, this is the better option than even the current OnePlus 13. But if you're looking for maybe an overall better package for the camera, the 13 is going to probably take the win. This still has the master mode and great video modes, and cameras, while they improve a little bit year over year, they kind of already had got them really good by this point at the OnePlus 12. So Hasselblad, color science, master modes, and more, and really good options for zoom, even really far telephoto zooming. You can go up to 120 times on here, and it's pretty reliable. So this can truly replace, having multiple lenses in a camera. It really can do that for you. And video is acceptable as well, although I wouldn't say it's the best out there. One of the areas I much prefer on the newer phone is the ultrasonic fingerprint. While this one is fantastic, it's not quite as good when your fingers are greasy as like the ultrasonic. In addition, it can miss a little bit more, but it's pretty rare. So I don't think it's a massive issue, but I gotta say, I really like the curves for the way it feels to hold in the hand. And I like the placement of the fingerprint sensor on here. The battery, in my experience a year later, has been one of my favorites of the entire year. As a matter of fact, this actually outperformed for me the S24 Ultra in day-to-day usage, which is one of the best phones out there for that area. And it not quite beats the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but it definitely is very close. It also charges much, much faster than like a 16 Pro Max. So this phone is definitely really nice to have that. 80 watts of wireless charging. I understand some people say, well, you're going to kill the battery by the time you actually destroy the battery, you probably are already going to upgrade to another phone. Seriously, like you're probably going to just upgrade. So this phone did really, really good in that department. The thing that really impresses me most though is I get all of this for much less price than the competition. I understand why. The resale value is not as strong. At the end of the day though, I do think you are just purely winning if you waited, and now you can find a OnePlus 12. I'll leave them linked down below. You can find them for under retail prices, like a good $100 or $200 less than retail prices. So you're getting this phone now with all this flagship goodness at a mid-range price point. So a year later, it really held up in the OnePlus 12 right here. It also had a pretty strong front-facing camera at 32 megapixels. And this is my preferred option right here, the silky black. They do have a silver glacial white as well as a flowing emerald color, which is like a shiny green color. But really, you can't go wrong with all the specs on this phone and the price point you could get them for now a year later. So that's my take on the OnePlus 12 right now. Oxygen OS 15 really, and Android 15 really kept this thing fresh. And I think it's good for the whole year now. It really is. So I'll probably give this another revisit in about a year from now, 2 years later. So stay tuned for that. But until then, if you're looking for this, the only way I would really recommend you spring for the OnePlus 13 is if you want that 8 Elite, if you want that thinner design, and then you want that 6,000 milliamp as well as the IP ratings, you'll probably want to go for that phone. But this is like 90% of what that phone already is. So it's still great. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and if you want to check out some of my other videos, I have plenty of those on the channel here, but I have way more on my main channel, the Nick Ackerman channel, so you can go check that out as well. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you very much for watching.